Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
The following program was recorded at an earlier date for broadcast at this time.
The turboencabulator has now reached a high level of development, and it's being successfully used in the operation of Nofertronians. Moreover, whenever a fluorescent score motion is required, it may also be employed in conjunction with a drawn reciprocation dingle arm to reduce sinusoidal repleneration.
Shut up, little man. I got a decent dinner ready. Nothing happened with the dinner because you crucified it. You ruined it. God damn you. Shut up, little man.
Kim, you had a question.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Maya her views on interracial relationships.
Oh, thank you. And first, I'm Miss Angelo.
Miss Angelo?
Yes, ma'am. I'm not Maya. I'm 62 years old. I have lived so long and tried so hard that a young woman like you or any other you have no license to come up to me and call me by my first name.
Now, Godzilla!
Godzilla! You can pretend Godzilla turns a mighty castle into a pile of sand.
Go do it, Godzilla!
You control Godzilla's ugly tongue. You can make him stomp, pound his tail, pretending he strikes it all in his way. You can launch Godzilla's claw for the final blow.
We did it!
What will Godzilla do next? It's up to you. Godzilla with a claw that launches. Some assembly required from the Shogun Warrior Collection by Mattel.
And now you can build your own King Kong with these challenging King Kong model kits. You need no glue, no special tools. Just snap together and paint it, and you have a realistic model of Kong fighting the giant snake. Or for a real challenge, build King Kong on top of the Twin Towers. When you're finished, they make a great addition to any kid's room. King Kong model kits come complete with easy-to-follow picture instructions. By Mego.
Oh, have I got your attention now? Good. Because we're adding a little something to this month's sales contest. As you all know, first prize is a Cadillac Eldorado. Anybody want to see second prize? Second prize is a set of steak knives. Third prize is you're fired.
This is one of the most important places in all of North America. Who are you? Who are you? You miserable, presumptuous, no talent. You're no artist. An artist respects the silence that serves as the foundation of creativity. You obviously don't have the talent. You don't have enough respect for yourself or other people, or in what it is to express yourself. In music or any other form of creativity. And I'm an NYU film school graduate, sucker!
Okay, here's a completely unrelated fun fact. You know, we were talking about Walking Dead. Well, I was anyway.
Yeah.
And in the early seasons of The Walking Dead, I don't know if they still do this, but somebody got the bright idea to take a zombie and like take its guts and blood and wipe it all over you so that the other zombies wouldn't smell you.
Okay.
Right? Then they could like walk through a herd of zombies and the zombies would just smell zombie. Okay, it's a lame plot device, I think, but they use it whenever they need to. But here's the reason I brought that up. I just found out that the Californian ground squirrel does this for real with rattlesnakes. When a rattlesnake sheds its skin, the squirrels will take the rattlesnake's skin and they'll chew it. They'll chew it up and they'll make a mush. And then they'll wipe that mush all over their bodies. So rattlesnakes will not smell them. They'll smell rattlesnakes. Am I wrong to be freaked out by this? I mean, first the jellyfish, but this is like...
On cancel culture,
yes.
There was the best thing at the end of the show yesterday on Morning Joe. They had 6 people on, different ethnicities, so different life experiences, different backgrounds, different professions. And it went on for 3 to 5 minutes, which really is quite a long time. It was wonderful. I wish everyone could access it and listen. It was basically in reference to Lexi McCammond, who is 27 years old and had been hired as the editor of Teen Vogue. And then apparently there were some, I want to make sure I get anti-Semitic and homophobic tweets that she had put out 10 years ago when she was 17. Now, she was young. That's still, 10 years ago, 2011, you know by then that stuff's going to catch up with you. And she's also of an ethnicity that would lead one to think that there would be more sensitivity. But she's also human and a teenager. And apparently they were aware at the magazine, at the publication. But people turned it into a big to-do. And I've never seen them, so I don't know how bad they are. But it was about forgiveness and atonement and taking responsibility and not canceling everyone and everything so quickly. Give them the moment. It's a teaching moment. Allow them some grace. And Eddie Glaude was saying, meet them on the ground, meet them on the ground, start on the ground and build up. It was so wonderful. And Reverend Al was on there, which some people like him, some don't. Sometimes he can be too much and sometimes he's right on. But he was talking about when he was involved in that march in 1991, and a man ran out of the crowd and stabbed him in the chest, obviously trying to kill him, and how he then went to that man and forgave him. And the forgiveness was for himself, not for the other person. Another gal was on there who had been bullied when she was younger. And with all of these things coming out in this whole cancel culture and everything else, she thought, I want to just see who he is and where he is now. So she looked him up, got in touch with him, and he didn't remember it. Then he starts talking about what a bad place he was in, and they were 13, 14 years old. And so she, through the conversation, he understood the effect that it had on her. She learned about where he was in his life that made him kind of angry and meaner and wanting to strike out at other people. But now they're talking about getting their families together. It was such a wonderful conversation, and everyone should see if they can access that.
So I'll put a link in that. So just check the description, and you'll see a link to that. The thing about cancel culture that just drives me up the freaking wall is that people think this is a new thing or that it's somehow different than it's ever been, and it's exactly the same thing. Just yesterday, I saw on social media, on Facebook, one of these ridiculous memes. Here's what it was. It was a photo of Chuck Berry, and it said, in 1972, Chuck Berry had a hit single with My Ding-a-Ling, which is true.
Yes.
And nobody was offended. That's what the meme says, okay? Followed by, I know, right? And ditto, and everybody agreeing. And I thought, well, that doesn't sound right. I'll bet it was controversial. And one quick Google search shows me that, of course, it was controversial. And it was banned from radio stations. And it was an uproar exactly like this Dr. Seuss uproar. No difference whatsoever. People really just believe, people didn't used to get offended about things. They got more and more offended. Interracial relationships. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about Sammy Davis Jr. and what he went through because he was married to a white woman. Elvis was with kids.
But the whole, he couldn't be on certain shows because of the way he danced. Yes, or Ed Sullivan, they showed him from the waist up. It's been around.
The irony there is Ed Sullivan apparently was so foul-mouthed behind the scenes. I mean, things were different back then. There was a decorum imposed upon television and broadcast and whatnot. But it's just so silly because you think, he didn't want people cursing or he must have been a prude. He was so far from a prude. It was all about the network or whatever. Now I think that the left has sort of jumped on it. It used to be almost entirely a right-wing thing, mostly religious, actually. It was usually Life of Brian, Last Temptation of Christ, anything like that. You'd have pickets and protests and record burnings and whatnot. Now that the left, the Dixie Chicks, thank you, Colin Kaepernick.
Yes.
Now it's the left that's doing it, and now it's a problem. Now it's called cancel culture because left-wing people are doing it, and it's only racist stuff that they seem to be. It just drives me so crazy.
I remember we talked about this before, but I wonder if it really is the left is behaving that greatly in this manner, or if it's the right is screaming so loudly and continuously that the left is doing all of this. That is the narrative, that they aren't actually canceling anything to the extreme or canceling, anything to the extreme that the right is saying, or if it's just the right screaming that they are.
Yeah, it's misunderstanding what censorship is. I mean, I'm currently in conversation/arguments with several people on social media just about that, about saying something is censorship when it's not censorship. If Facebook has a weird thing now that it's infuriating because they have a list of words you're not allowed to use. Not the words, not obscene words. You can use those as much as you want. But there are certain words that their bots tag as, quote, abusive. And it doesn't matter the context. And so you will get flagged, or you'll get a 30-day timeout or whatever it is. And they won't even tell you exactly why. They'll say it was abusive language or abusive, harmful content.
They don't even say the word that began with the letter.
Right. Tell me so I can correct it. I'm perfectly happy. I curse in my real life, but I'm perfectly able to color within the lines. If you tell me what the rules are, I don't normally curse on this podcast. Once in a while it'll slip, but I don't normally. I
already did. I already did in the beginning, and I meant to.
It works better if you judiciously place it, I think.
Yes.
But my point is, I have no problem with their rules. Just I have a problem with expecting people to understand the rules before they've told us. Tell us the 7 words you can't say on television, and I won't say those words. No problem. But
you can't play the game if you don't know the rules.
Yeah, but people are calling that censorship, and that's ridiculous because it's not. There's no censorship. It's a private company. They have the right to do whatever they want to. If they say you can no longer use the letter E, that's their right. It would upset people, but there's no censorship of the letter E. It's just those are their terms. I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what censorship is, and that's why all these stupid stories like the Dr. Seuss and the Muppets putting a disclaimer before the Muppets on Disney, these things become censorship. And it's, I think that's all I want.
That's it. That's all I've done.
That's it.
Thank you.
Mic drop.
Boom. So there was on a show on that channel that I don't mention the name, one of the people involved in the $2.7 billion lawsuit, I caught a little video where she shut a very informed expert in a particular field who she was speaking with. Now, she didn't like what this person had to say because they were not cutting down Joe Biden. As a matter of fact, they had the audacity to compliment something he was doing. So she starts shutting him down and getting all kinds of antsy, saying something about don't like the facts. Those aren't facts. That's blah, blah, blah. I don't allow lies on my program. Then how does she ever speak? So she just completely ended the interview. Thank you for nothing. So I was talking to the person who regularly on the daily watches the program. Well, it's her show. She can have people say whatever she wants. If she doesn't like what they're saying, she doesn't have to have them on, or she doesn't have to let them keep talking. And this is the same person who keeps saying, you need to listen to other points of view, blah, 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 which I do, which is how I found out what happened. And I thought, are you kidding me? If your point of view doesn't agree with theirs, then you should listen to theirs. But if they don't agree with anything that you might think, believe, or know, they don't have to listen. Then they don't have to play at all. It was so ridiculous. So ridiculous.
Yeah, well, they've been taught to look at things that way. There's no people on the left get caught up with hypocrisy. Oh, the Republicans are so hypocritical. Of course they are. They don't care.
This wasn't the left.
They don't care.
This wasn't the left. This was a right side show. You know, it was Judge.
People on the left complain about people on the right being hypocritical, and I think that's just missing the point. They don't care if they're hypocritical. They don't care. They do have two standards, and that's fine with them. So calling them hypocritical and trying to point that out is just futile, in my opinion. The same people can hold these two thoughts in their head and have no problem with it, that a baker can refuse to bake a cake for a gay couple, and Dr. Seuss, the people who publish Dr. Seuss, have to keep all of his books in print at all times. One side is good, one side is bad, and everything filters through that. So the bad guys, yeah, it's okay to be unfair to the bad guys, meaning the liberals. It's okay to be unfair because they're bad people.
And independents and anyone who just isn't exactly like them.
Yeah, that group keeps getting bigger and bigger, doesn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, the people who are, it used to be that the hatred was confined to one or two specific groups, and now if you're a QAnon person, you could hate everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's to the left of Donald Trump is a liberal. So
yes.
Think about what that means.
You have to have enough groups to hate because they have so many things that are going to happen that don't happen. So you can cover, let's say, the world's going to end on Tuesday. because of these certain people, and it doesn't end on Tuesday. If you have all these other people to hate, you can deflect these other people and forget about the fact that you're all still here on Wednesday morning.
Exactly.
Ugh.
Yeah. Speaking of hate, I know details are still coming in on this, but there was a big shooting in Boulder, Colorado. Was it even a week ago that 8 people were murdered? 8 Asian Americans?
6 Asian Americans, and then 1 Caucasian woman, 1 Caucasian man.
Okay.
It's within a week's time.
18 dead within a week.
Yes.
Okay.
And the interesting thing about the shootings in Atlanta and then in Cherokee County is it makes me wonder when some people want to say it's a hate crime against Asian Americans, and some people want to say it was random. This poor young kid had these issues. One of the things that seems simple is look at the spas in that area. What's the ratio of ownership and working? Are the vast majority of them owned by Asian Americans? Are most of them, is it an ethnic split? But the thing is that industry, I think oftentimes tends to skew that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean that as an ethnic comment. That's training in this, well, not in this area.
It's a business that Asian Americans have certainly recognized as a niche to be filled. So Koreans learned at a certain point that delis are a good way to make money.
If this is something that you know, you understand, and you're good at, do it. But that's one thing. Somebody take 5 minutes and look into it. Post the statistics, and then come back. And let's talk about what it could be, what it might not be, and what it probably is or isn't. But all this talk without anybody taking a moment. I have something, and I'd like your opinion on this.
Okay.
There is so much, and there is a lot of learning to be done on intersectional relationships as far as ethnicity and learning the experience of other people to better understand and learn how to work together. So I read this post, and it's from this young man who makes a lot of good points. He is ethnically different from the two of us, but in his whole dissertation, and it's in reference to his ethnicity in comparison to the experience of Asian Americans, and saying that they're not the same. Well, they're not, nor is either of their experience the same as Indigenous. There are some wrongs that can be universal. The negative treatment is universal. Not exactly how they're treated and what is done to them, but it was the Japanese had the internment camps, Japanese Americans during World War II.
Yep.
So everybody's had their thing. That's coming out wrong. I'm not trying to make light of it. I understand the seriousness. So I am not making light of anything, and hopefully if y'all hang on to hear my point, you'll get what I'm saying. But in his dissertation about saying how the experiences are not the same, and he's waiting for the Asian Americans to stand up for themselves first before he'll get involved. Necessarily, this is their fight first, which made me quite sad, because when the movements that he's involved in, we got there the first day that we could on the streets, over and over and over, going in, helping fight for legislation. We didn't wait to hear. But then he made a comment about how Asian Americans are they've spent generations, all these years, trying to be white or become part of that culture. And I thought you just did one of the things that you don't want anybody to judge you, and yet you're projecting onto another culture. And all these people like, love. And I thought, what? And all these, thank you for your words, such wise words. And did anybody really read this?
Wow.
I have been sitting on it for a few days trying to figure out how to respond, because I'm not going to put a little heart, or I'm not going to give it a thumbs up. And honestly, the fear that if you write anything about, I get your point, I see what you're doing. However, do you think projecting your thoughts about another is doing exactly what you don't want anyone to do about you? Oh, I'd just get berated.
Oh, yes.
Ooh.
Race is a really tricky thing to talk about, especially as a white dude talking about it. Like, who really cares? My thoughts. I'm of the opinion that murder is in itself a hate crime. The whole hate crime thing I find kind of infuriating, because it implies that your motive for the crime makes the crime worse. In other words, if I'm mugged, if I'm beaten up by strangers on the street, That's a crime. There's assault. Now, if they call me a fag while they're doing it, is that worse? Does it matter that I'm heterosexual? Would it matter if I were homosexual? Would it be a worse crime if they said that? I don't think so. I think the assault is the crime. So
I think it's if you're being targeted because of what you look like or who they think you are, as opposed to a random.
Well, I think
I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I think that's, if you're just walking down the street and this guy wants to mug somebody, but he looks at you and he's like, heterosexual white guy, and walks past you, but sees someone that he really has a hatred for, and he chooses that person.
But what if
the random versus selection?
What if he has a hatred for a certain group that's not protected? What if he hates people who wear glasses, for instance? That particular group isn't protected by
They're not
hate crimes.
No.
Right. So what if, fucking Four Eyes and just,
there went an F-bomb.
Just pummeled me, calling me Four Eyes and whatnot. That's not worse this is my opinion. My opinion is that the crime is the crime. If you want to create a different crime I'm also uneasy with judging people's motivations for doing a crime. The crime, if we need to make the penalty for assault bigger to encompass more heinous types of assault, then let's do that. But I don't see treating one as better or worse than another as really helping the problem. But anyway, that's a side tangent. What, if I can ask, do you know what ethnicity this person was? Or is?
I do.
You do. I'm not saying that it matters. I'm just to understand the whole picture. I'm picturing a black man.
Yes.
Am I close? Okay. I think it's important to acknowledge, at least in New York, there's always been it's probably true in any city really, there's always been a problem between blacks and Asians, whether it's not one-sided, but there is a perceived, whether it's black teenagers being treated like criminals when they go into Korean delis, which happens, or if it's something else, but that's something that has to be acknowledged. There is racism specifically between those two things. So
yeah, I cannot speak on behalf of this young man and his experience in life, but there is a difference in treatment. When you see a group of Asian young men walking down the street, there's nothing. You don't usually have fear. There's nobody calling the police saying, hey, look at this. They could probably be in the park at 10 o'clock and nobody's going to freak out. You flip that to a different group, and even here, police probably going to show up because somebody freaked out unnecessarily. And fair isn't even a good enough word. It's not right. It's not justified. It's not justice. It's not equality in any way, shape, or form. But there was one time when I told that story when my son was quite young, and we were at a neighborhood, well, not really in our neighborhood, but a smaller park, and teenagers started showing up, and just the way they were acting, and they were white, but they just made me really nervous. And thank goodness another mom that I know with her son showed up, and we all, at least there were 4 of us then, kind of hanging out, and after a little bit we just left. They were rambunctious.
Okay.
I'll use that word.
Okay. Well, I think we're tribal people, and I think it makes sense that we would evolve to be wary of certain signs of danger from other clans or whatever. That makes sense to a certain point. I think what the problem is that we've been taught through media or whatever to look for the wrong signs. So race becomes the sign. It should be more about behavior. If you're walking down the street, now again, this is coming from a man. I don't know what it's like to be a woman, and so I'm sure the mileage varies greatly. But as a man walking down the street at night, if I see somebody approaching me, I look for signs of why they might be a danger. And the race of the person isn't at least something that I am aware of being. I try not to let that be a deciding factor. You look at the way a person is walking. You look at the way a person's dressed. Are they wearing a heavy coat on a warm night? Things like that. You look for signs, right? But I think we've been conditioned to look at race as the first sign and as danger. I mean, that's a simple thought, I guess. But
Unless you have enough friends of different races, different ethnicities, very different cultures, that it doesn't mean that everything has swallowed up and gone. But my eyes are open enough, I hope, that I don't rush to judgment. I hope. And sometimes I'm sure I do. I'm human and I've got my own set of faults. But I hope that I'm better.
Well, that's the point right there. I mean, we're all racist. We all have bad tendencies, but being aware of them and trying to work on them is really the point. So in this shooter in Colorado, again, we don't know too much about them. He was taken into custody. He's 21 years old, and I guess you could say he sort of breaks the mold of the typical shooters in that his name is, I'm not even going to try, but it looks like a Middle Eastern name to me.
Yes,
so, right. So my gut reaction when I saw that was, oh no, as if that's worse. Oh, but not because of his ethnicity, only in that the way the story is going to be reported. I can already see this. I can already see Fox News and the right-wing people. This is going to be 50 million times worse than last week's murder because they can pin it on a non-white person this time. So
yeah,
I know it's wrong.
Was it the police chief? No, whoever the detective was who was talking about the story, and they said that he wasn't so insensitive in the pre-briefing meeting, but then when he got up there, and they said they don't know if that's what the kid had said in the meeting, but that he was having a bad day, and that's just how he reacted to it.
Right.
Heaven forbid. Common sense. Who knows? I've never been in that stressful situation.
No, that's
and you
well.
Tell that he was on edge, but you'd think that would have been crossed out or never put in your notes.
Well, surprise, surprise. If you look at the cop who did
that's true.
Look at his social media. Guess what? He's a racist.
Yeah.
He's a Q guy. Yeah. So of course he would say that. Yeah. It makes perfect sense.
You're just having a bad day.
You had a bad day.
Go buy a cupcake.
Gotta get you a Whopper?
No.
You must be hangry.
Liza.
People aren't themselves when they're hungry.
No, not even Elton John. If you remember the commercial.
No, did he do was it a Snickers
commercial? He did. I
gotta say, I don't have much love for Elton John. Not just because 80% of his music is trash, but
I like
do you know that all right. Well, do you know that he played Trump's wedding?
Yes.
He played a personal, and we knew who Trump was back then. He knew who Trump was back then. The man is a champion of gay rights, and really? And you just took $3 million to play Trump's wedding? Okay. Tells me enough about you.
His comment on it was that he was trying to show that people with differences can get together. You should try to get together.
For free or for $3 million.
Take that $3 million and donate it directly to his HIV and AIDS Foundation.
Or you could not.
Which perhaps he did.
Or you could not do it, I suppose, and make a public statement saying, guess what? I refuse to do this because of this. I don't know. That's kind of what I would do, especially as somebody who's got money.
Yeah.
I don't think that $3 million was really necessary in his lifestyle.
I would have said no.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So, whatever.
Unless he had music, the albums playing underneath his music with subliminal messaging. Could be. I guess
you're just trying to find excuses. Look, I like Goodbye Yellow Brick Road.
Rational.
That's fine. No problem with Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. After that, I can probably count the songs on one hand that I can stomach. But that's just me.
There we go.
Is he better than Phil Collins? Yes.
I like Phil Collins also.
Okay. This is going to be difficult, Mary.
I would say.
Really going to be difficult.
Yeah. Do you listen to Korn?
No, I don't.
Probably.
I don't listen to Korn.
What are the other
Dave Matthews Band. Do you like them too?
All right.
Oops.
Notice there wasn't nearly as much.
No, but there was enough pause there though. You're like, oh yeah, kind of.
I can't name 3 songs.
Okay.
Well, and honestly, the pause went because there was in Omaha. I don't know if they still do it. There was a summer day-long music festival that was great fun, and a band from Omaha by the name of Blue Moon Ghetto, which they have one song that I love. Listen to the whole thing, because I'm not going to tell you which song it is. See if you can figure it out. Dave Matthews was dating Nikki Brulé, who was also a DJ, but she was the lead singer in the band at the time that we heard them live. And that's when you said Dave Matthews, that's right where my head went first. Then the band broke up for a while, and person who had the rights to the songs, when they broke up, there was a whole thing that their music couldn't be produced anymore or anything, and I didn't have the CD. Some of my friends who owned a bar had it on their jukebox. Like, if you ever take it out, may I please have it? Might I please? But they're back together.
Thank God.
It is. When you hear the song, when you hear Blue Moon Ghetto, you'll know the song. You should know the song.
I don't think that I've ever heard a Dave Matthews song outside of a supermarket. That's not true, but that's where I usually hear Dave Matthews.
There was a bar where I used to work downtown. It was so much fun. Oh my goodness, was it fun. And the other side, get a jukebox. We would always just play CDs, and there was, I think, 5 CD. So I'd pick different genres, and they would just go around and around. And of course, then you change them after a little bit. It was about the time that Smells Like Teen Spirit was popular.
Ah, yes.
Everyone who came in the bar, without taking 5 minutes to listen to what might be playing, right up to the jukebox. Boom. Holy buckets, it got miserable. Yeah. It was too much. Too much.
Was Nirvana was huge here. Was Nirvana huge there too?
Oh, yes.
Like 90s, late 90s?
Yes.
I had the pleasure of going through Kurt's death twice because I had a friend who had a friend in the music industry to some degree. I think he worked for Sony. And I was working at Kim's Video, and my friend Frank got a phone call from his buddy, and he just, like, his jaw dropped, and he looked at me and said, "Kurt's dead." And I went, "Oh, what?" And it was just like, and this was, I don't know if you remember, but like 2 weeks before he committed suicide, allegedly. He had a drug overdose in Rome.
Okay.
That's what it was. It turns out he pulled through, but the report that I got from the guy, from the inside, it hadn't reached the media yet, but it's a story, right? That Kurt was dead. So for a few hours there, I thought Kurt was dead, and then he was alive, and then 2 weeks later, boom, he's dead again. So when he actually died for real, you could feel in the city just this. I mean, I was hanging around on St. Mark's Avenue, which is like the punk, hangout. But you could just feel it. You could just feel like in the air, I don't know if it was like when Lennon died, because I wasn't in New York when that happened, but yeah, it was quite a deal.
Okay, here's something big. Neither Boo Boo or I are spring chickens, necessarily. But there's that little dog park that I had started taking him to. So we went last week. A beautiful day. Pretty much everybody made a comment about age. For him, not me. Oh, is he older? How old is he? Yeah, he looks like an old... One woman, and he does not, you've seen him, he's absolutely gorgioso, said he looks kind of, and I swear the word she used was raggedy.
Oh.
Now, you don't say things about people's children. You don't say stuff about their dogs. This woman has no idea what this dog has helped me through. I mean, when my father passed, my little doggy was there every day. When life is good, he's there to celebrate with me. When things get tough, he's there to comfort me and just go through it with me. I thought, bitch, leave that word in. You nasty old...
Biatch.
Yes. What the hell?
What do people like that expect? What do they expect your reaction will be?
Yeah,
I mean, you don't call anybody raggedy in the first place, do you?
No. And you don't talk about, you don't sit there and say somebody's puppy is old. We all know what that means.
Yeah.
I mean, when you tell a person they're old, that's like, oh, so you're telling me I'm knocking on the gate pretty soon? So I swear to you, I have some friends who have a laminating machine. She's a professor. I'm going to type up signs, get them laminated, and hang them on the fence.
Uh-huh.
In reference to not making negative comments. Don't tell somebody their dog looks old. Don't tell somebody their dog looks raggedy. And he doesn't. He's a short-furred dog who is the coloring of a shepherd. He's quite handsome.
I've seen him, and let the record reflect that he is not raggedy at all.
He's very handsome.
He is very handsome. One time, years ago, I was working on a film shoot, and we were shooting on location out in, I don't remember, Midtown, I think, Midtown Manhattan. And so there's people bustling back and forth. And this the director of the film was an a-hole. I'll say that. I think he probably would agree, to be honest. But worst director I've ever worked for. Just yelled and berated people, and it was just awful. And it was my first film that I worked on, so I sort of put up with it. But
welcome to the industry.
Welcome, yeah. That's what I figured. I figured, okay, well, this is what it's like. I found out later that they're not all like that. They can be nice too. But we're shooting, and people are milling about, and there's this incredibly old-looking person, a man, and he's being helped by somebody's holding onto his elbow and walking him along. And the director saw this guy and went over to him, and like you would a dog or like a little child or something.
Oh, no.
He got down on his knee and said, "How old are you?"
No.
Yeah, he really did. And the guy was probably pushing 100. I mean, I would imagine. and he just kind of took a beat, and then he like swung his fist out to punch him as if he.
Oh,
Yeah.
I have to say that's what I was hoping.
Of course, he didn't connect, but and if he had, he probably would have just broken his own body. But it was just so. I will never forget that. How old? What response was he expecting to get? Oh, thank you for reminding me that I'm at death's door. I'm actually 99 years old, just waiting for the other shoe to drop. What do they expect?
106, and you're the biggest POS I've met in my entire life. Congratulations! Yay!
Exactly.
Go you!
Exactly. I don't know what people are thinking. I think they think they're. I don't know. I don't know what they're. I don't even know.
I have that's not how you show interest. If you want to show interest, what the rest of us do, and that's the first time I've had that happen with everybody. Now, I've met some really great people there. That's why I like to go.
Mm-hmm.
They have little benches in like 3 or 4 places in the little doggy area, and then the big dog area is separate. I've sat down and had lovely conversations with people. I mean, to the point, there's one gal, I'm surprised we didn't exchange phone numbers. She was twice widowed. Honestly, you wouldn't have known it, but she was probably, if I remember correctly, 20 years older than us, 20 years our senior.
Okay.
Just lovely gal. And her little dog was sweet. And that day, usually it's, oh, your dog is sweet, your dog is cute. Oh my gosh, what's his name? What's her name? Or sometimes you can't tell, so you say, what's your puppy's name? And it's pleasant. That day, it took everything in me not to say something.
Wow.
And if anybody knows me well enough, you never said crap about my dad. That wouldn't have gone well. Don't say a negative statement about my son. Only I can do that.
Okay. Fair enough. These are simple rules to live by.
Don't say anything nasty about my dog, and don't pick on my friends. Don't pick on my family.
Okay.
Other than that, I'll be nice, kind, and helpful. You start doing that, and I think we all have that. You know, the other side that will come out in defense of whomever and whatever you truly feel is worthy. So I'm wearing my kind t-shirt today. I got, no, it has.
That ironically?
I put it on purpose.
Okay.
Kind, adjective. Having or showing a friendly, generous, and considerate nature. When in doubt, be this.
There you go.
I'm going to wear it to the dog park next time. And if it's cold outside, I'll just put a long underwear shirt underneath it. Anybody says anything, I'll just point.
I know you know this too, being a parent. When you're a new parent, I experience this so much in my career as a parent. Strangers are so helpful with advice, right? I just completely unsolicited advice. The second you walk out the door with your stroller and your baby in the stroller, people will say, oh, is that water isn't cold, is it? He shouldn't have cold water. Or he should have a hat on right now. Things like that. Just being super, super helpful.
Ah,
yeah.
How sweet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That they would take time out of their day.
I would usually ignore it, but sometimes I would just turn it back on them and say, "Really, you're wearing that today? Okay, all right." Yeah.
I had told you before that my son was born with some respiratory issues, and so I had to leave the real world and get a job where I could be home, and went to work in a place where a lot of my friends worked. It was a grocery store, but they were so kind. The HR gal, God rest her soul, she recently passed, was really understanding. She was also a parent, a single parent. So we go in there one time, and my son was a toddler, and the cart was full, so I had to have him by me. I'm putting all this stuff on the belt to check it. Well, he's comfortable enough in there. He goes in there with me every time we shopped, and he knew all the people, and they would do Halloween trick-or-treating. These people adored him, which he was quite adorable, I will say. So I'm trying to corral him, but he starts climbing onto the next register thing. He's a climber, and I'm trying to do this, but I'm trying to get the stuff up on the belt. There's a line behind me, and the woman behind me obviously didn't know, and she made that "some people's children" comment, and I just stopped and I looked at her dead on. He's mine. Oh, it's like, no, I didn't want him climbing. Of course I didn't want him climbing on things. It was embarrassing, but those are the kind of comments that you think but you don't say.
Yeah.
The quiet things you don't say out loud. That new phrase, he said the quiet thing out loud. She said the quiet thing out loud.
There are no quiet things anymore. Everything is shouted. Remember I was talking about Crip Camp a few shows back?
Yes.
That got a nomination for Best Documentary.
Well, very good.
I got my thumb on the pulse.
Yes, you do.
The Grammys. Did you see the Grammys? Speaking of things
I
people don't watch.
was watching something else, and I would flick back there every now and then. So I saw Taylor win. I saw Billie Eilish win. I saw somebody perform who was up for Record of the Year, who I'd never heard of, which isn't surprising.
Yeah.
They kept showing Post Malone when he didn't win. Huh. I caught maybe 10 seconds of Beyonce talking. Heard Trevor Noah talk a few times, so I probably caught the better part of it when I heard him. The guy who is the head of whatever the organization is. No, I don't like those as much. I did watch the final episode of The Bachelor. Had you heard all the talk around that?
No.
Matt James was the first person of color, African American, black. He's been referred to in all those ways. Bachelor in the 20-some years, 23 seasons. So there was pressure there. And then in the end, when it came down to the two final girls, well, okay, more of the drama. His father had left the family shortly after he was born and then just started another family. So he couldn't commit to their family, but he committed to this other one. So when he gets closer to the end, he meets up with his father and they have this conversation because Matt knows that what his father did has messed him up as far as how he is in relationships and on and on. And then the final two girls, he brings them home to meet his mom and his brother. But then all these commitment issues the kid has had, and his mother seemed like a lovely, lovely woman who really did a great job raising her two sons. But then she makes the comment that love doesn't last forever, or something along those lines. The love fades, something. So then all of a sudden he's terrified again, and he was just getting kind of comfortable with the whole thing. So he sends one girl home, the only girl of color who was left, and he chose a white girl and professes love, says, he's not ready to get engaged. That's all good, fine and dandy. Well, what had been coming out beforehand was that 3 years ago, whatever, this gal attended a plantation party.
Oh, nice.
I've never heard of such thing.
Uh-huh.
And here's where I think it's weird. And I guess Chris Harrison backed her up in that she said she didn't get it at the time. She didn't get it. And he backed her up by saying, she's sorry. And so he's under all kinds of fire. Well, instead of helping teach this gal where she was wrong and what it is to be black, he's like, no, and he walked away from her. She's got to learn on her own. She's got to grow on her own. I don't know what it is to be black. I have a lot of friends who have different experiences than I do, who have different experiences than each other. There are some unifying experiences that we all share in different ways. But then they asked Bree, who was the third girl, the last girl to be sent home, what she would have done. Now, not on this show. They interviewed her in another show. And she said, I think if you're in love, you go there to find love, you stick with them. But you wonder, what do you think would have been the thing to do? Stick with her and help teach her, or just walk away? And I mean, he was deeply hurt and understandably hurt. That's beyond insensitive. I don't know. Why would anybody go to a plantation party? I don't understand that draw, though, to begin with.
You have to be completely unaware of it in order to,
I went to a wedding on an old plantation, on a plantation 20 years ago, I want to say. I went with the guy I was dating at the time. So I didn't know these people. And so while they were chatting, which I didn't care, I wandered about a bit on the land because I'd never been any place like this. And I remember going to one of the rock walls. And I'd already heard the stories about how they were built. And I couldn't stop just walking down that wall and just touching those stones. It was very profound.
I imagine.
And
the
so
walls were to keep the slaves in, right?
Well, these were only like little half walls. Okay. Little shorter walls, but they were built by the slaves. Kind of a frame thing out around, if you say, the lawn, which was quite big. And there was it seemed kind of random where it was. I don't know the purpose of it. It was very strange.
Wow. Did other people feel strangely about that, or?
I don't know. Again, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And his parents had also went because the gal who got married, her son, this gal, and then another guy were all roommates in college. And so the mom and dad knew this gal as well, pretty well. I was just wandering about by myself at that point.
They have these things called white parties that I don't think they're related, but they still make me uncomfortable for the city where everybody has to wear white and everything is in white.
It's actually an
Tablecloths and everything.
LGBTQA thing.
Oh, it is? I didn't know that.
Yes.
I stumbled upon one in Prospect Park or Central Park one time.
No,
What am I doing here?
No, it's a pretty cool thing. I went to my friend Charles. Oh no, I can't say his last name. Had set up the first one in Lincoln.
Sound it out.
No, it's the color of the party. It's for fundraising, for efforts within the community is what it was about. And then when we were in San Francisco for the Berkeley game, the hotel where we were staying, it was the national guys. Somehow I ended up chit-chatting away with these guys and got invited into the National in San Francisco in this fantastic hotel, which we got to stay in because my brother's company did all the electrical work. So we were staying in a hotel that we never could have. You know, one of those ones where no two rooms are alike kind of thing. And you walk in and there's this staircase. Oh my gosh. And so, yeah, I go walking in and see these guys. They're like, hey, I got these hugs. And it was like, there I was hanging out for a little while. They are a wonderful thing if you ever are invited to one for good reason.
Yeah, it just kind of freaked me out seeing everybody in white.
I've started watching The Crown.
Oh, yeah?
Interesting. Yes.
I'm going to rely on your updates on that because I have a blind spot with period historical dramas.
And then Boo and I binge watched The One. Turn on the streaming service and it'll make suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
It was a new, unlimited, just one season at this point. And it is these scientists, a guy and a gal. The guy is working on these things with ants and he figures out that this mating happens. It's genetic. And he figures out exactly which gene it is, the T and the H and the C and the this and the that and the blah, 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 that are the same. And so these two will find each other. They're just instantly attracted. And so they steal the gal roommate's database because he works for some big biomed or government, whatever, and steal his database because it has genetic stuff in it. So it must be a biomedical something. And all you need is a sample of hair after that. And so the gal puts hers in and she gets a match. The person can be anywhere in the world. So the two scientists go down to the country where he is to test it out. And it works on people. And so supposedly you have one match in the world. And so all these people are doing that, but it's breaking up families. She doesn't tell her match what's going on, and then she ends up leaving because they want to go back and get this business going. She invites him and his brother to come back. He wants to go. The brother won't. A lot of stuff goes on. There are layers. But she's very, very power hungry, and there are some times when she should have walked away and she didn't. But it's, yes, The One. And they have there are other characters in there as well. It doesn't just focus on those 3, 4.
Oh, it's British, isn't it?
Yes. So you do have to have the volume a little louder. Because the background music and some of the other things will, if you're not that used to the accents, and some of them I think, and I almost think one gal in there is Irish. She has to be, almost, or I'm just hoping it so much. Yes, it's pretty cool. Tough to find an original idea.
That's on Netflix, it looks like.
Yes.
Keeping score at home. Cool.
So I don't know. Supposed to, normally I'll say a social media platform or a streaming service. Am I supposed to name them?
It doesn't matter.
I have said Netflix many times.
I don't know if people are aware of this. They should be aware of this, but every episode, if you look into the description underneath the episode that you're currently listening to, you'll see a list of links to the things that we discuss. So
yes,
there will be a link to The One, for instance. There'll be a link to just different things that we spoke about. So if you want to learn, because sometimes we mention something and then go right on to the next thing, and if you want to know more, then go there. So sort of like the annotated version of the podcast.
Have you yet to watch The Queen's Gambit?
No, but I'm afraid I'm going to ask you to remove the word "yet" from that
I
theory,
know.
because
You're not going.
it's no offense. It's just outside of my zone of interest. That's all. Which is a pretty weird zone.
There's
yeah.
alcohol abuse in it. There's all
Show.
kinds of.
Well, that's a selling point.
Yeah, pills.
This is the one about chess, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, there's some alcohol and drug use in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Something about it doesn't appeal to me, but I don't know what that is.
I didn't know what the Queen's Gambit is. I didn't know what it meant.
Mm-hmm.
And I started watching it, and I didn't think that it would capture my interest, but it certainly did. Certainly did.
Yeah.
What am I going to do when it's nice all the time and I have to go outside all the time and can't watch all these shows? I will have watched them all. Who are we kidding?
Oh, you know what? I think they might be making more shows, though. I think they're making shows, like, all the time.
I know, but I'm going to have to be outside. And I don't have television outside. I'll be working and doing stuff.
Here's some good news. I don't know if you know this, but New York has declared, I declare, that people age 50 and above, starting today, can get the COVID vaccine. 50 and above. And as you may well know, I'm 50 and above. Just barely. I'm just a little over 50. But I just under the wire there. Yeah. So that's cool, huh?
Yes. Now, do you register online?
You can. I looked into it a little bit. I'm going to wait until the lines calm down a little bit, you know? It's probably like a Black Friday at Walmart right now.
Oh, see, we
yeah.
register. I remember saying before how well orchestrated it is here. You register online, or there's a phone number you can call. So you register online, and then they call you and tell you when your appointment is and where.
Oh.
Now, if you don't get to your appointment time, they're still going to let you in, but that helps. So because I take care of it, blah, blah, blah. My second, I got the call yesterday. I go 3 o'clock, Friday, boom, 2 shots, done. I will be. Which will be nice because then I will feel safer going out a little bit. Mom has both of her shots.
Okay.
I mean, I basically don't do anything. I go to the grocery store. I have spent time with a few friends when it was nice. I did help one friend move for a couple hours one day. But I've discovered that, being out isn't that big a deal to me. I think perhaps I just worked in bars for too many years and I don't like to stay up late. I am, because I'm trained by my father, cutting the new mop boards for the redone kitchen.
Uh-huh.
And out there with the miter saw, having a fantastic time.
Wow.
Let me tell you, my 45 degree, because have you ever used one?
A miter, what's a miter saw? It's got a box on it or something?
It's attached to it's not
attached to a box, right? No.
Table saw, where the blade is only sticking up a portion and you can raise and lower it a little bit and you use that for long cuts.
Okay.
The miter saw is one that you pull it down. The blade is attached. You've got the cutting surface, and then the blade itself is actually, I'm going to call it spring loaded. It's the easiest way. That'll make sense. And then you pull it down to make the cut through. And then you don't let it go and let it pop up. You guide it back up where it goes. But you can cut. You know how when you are looking at mop boards or frames and you see that 45 degree angle, a 5, 10, 15, anywhere from 0 to 45 degree angle that's cut?
Uh-huh.
That's what you loosen the blade, and then you actually angle the whole blade and lock it back in place.
Okay.
And when you pull it down, then it goes down at that angle. I'm getting some really nice cuts. My 45s.
Oh, no.
Are
I thought you meant on your hands.
Oh, no.
Good.
No. Oh, no. You'd lose your fingers.
Yeah.
Straight up. And then it starts to rain. So we're actually going to get the nail gun in which it runs off a compressor.
Uh-huh.
Oh, all kinds of fishy fun.
Never goes on.